Hi, folks. Chris Voss here from the ChrisVossShow.com, the ChrisVossShow.com. Hey, we're coming here with another great podcast. Who saw that coming? Anyway, that should be the rest of the name of the podcast. The Chris Voss Show. Who saw that coming? Actually, should be the byline or the tagline of the motto. I think I just made shirts. Anyway, guys, you know the usual drill. Go to all the places that follow the show and all that good stuff. We have a returning guest. I think he's been on like 3 or 4 times now. We had him on twice during the coronavirus lockdown epidemic. He's the author of 6 books, and I don't know, he's probably going to have one written by the time we get done with this show. But he's written a new book that you want to take and pick up. He's got a lot of books. Pick them all up, actually. Superpowers for Good: The Skills You Can Master to Leave Your Mark on the World by Devin Thorpe. He's going to be joining us today to talk about his new book and all the wonderful things he does. He is a best-selling author who calls himself a champion of social good. In 2020, he was the Democratic nominee for Utah's 3rd congressional district. He travels extensively as a volunteer doing service, as a journalist finding heroes, and as a speaker sharing what he's learned. As a Forbes contributor, he covered social entrepreneurism and impact investing, reaching an audience of over 2 million people. He's produced 1,200 episodes of his podcast featuring luminary change agents, including Bill Gates. His books have been read over 1 million times. I'm about like 1,000,005 behind him. He help people do more good is what he does, and he helps nonprofits raise millions of dollars for being a crowdfunder. Welcome to the show, Devin. How are you?
It's a thrill to be back, Chris. Thanks for having me. You're very, very kind.
Yeah, you are also kind. You're always a gentleman when you come on. So you would be great as a British person, too, if you just have that British gentleman sort of thing going on there. So give us your plugs so people can find you on the interwebs and learn more about you.
Oh, yeah. So there are 2 places to find me, devinthorpe.com or superpowersforgood.com. Those are easy places. And I'm most active on social media on Twitter, but that's at Devin D. Thorpe. I'm also on Instagram with the same handle. I'm on Facebook and LinkedIn.
There you go.
I'm easy to find on LinkedIn.
Yeah, where those people are it's all about them jobs and stuff. So you've published this new book. It just came out September 7th, 2021. What motivated you to write this book?
Well, what motivated was very external. I was doing my podcast and had been doing it for years. And one of my friends / fans said, Devin, I noticed that you ask your guests, what is your superpower? And he said, those answers are the best part of the show. You should write a book about all those answers. And that resonated with me as someone who's written some books. I thought, oh, yeah, I probably should. And I actually started work on it. I started organizing all the material several years ago. And then with the congressional race and the pandemic, I set it aside. And then this spring, I decided to come back to that project, and I sort of dusted it off, and I discovered I'd made some real progress, and all that was really left to do was just to write it. Because the material was all there. So I sat down and wrote the book. And here's the thing, Chris, if you'll forgive me for saying so, this is the book I learned the most from and value the most of all the books I've written, because instead of sharing my wisdom and my insights, I was sharing the wisdom and insights of other people.
Oh, wow.
And so as I was gathering their wisdom, gathering their insights over and over, I was feeling like, this is really profound stuff. My life will change because I'm actually listening to this. I'm learning something new, and I'm going to be a better person because I did this. So I hope people accept it, feel it, learn from it the way I have felt like I've learned from it in writing it.
Yeah. It's interesting how the teacher, I think, learns more than the student, right?
Yeah, for sure.
You sit and you look at it and you go, wow, there's a lot to learn here.
Yeah.
Some of the times when I write stuff, I'm like, this helps me more than it helps other people. It's like, screw other people. This is for me. I like this. This is good. So give us an overall arcing view of the book, or some tidbits or some tease outs that you want to tease out on the book.
Yeah, sure. So, we might as well start at the end, but
Okay.
One of the things that when I talked to Bill Gates and had him on the show and was talking to him, I asked him about his superpower. He mentioned patience. And there's a little bit of irony there because he actually describes himself as an impatient optimist, right? And so he was talking about his superpowers in my conversation with him as patience and optimism. The optimism was not much of a surprise. Entrepreneurs are very optimistic as a group.
You kind of have to be.
And it worked out pretty well for him. So, his optimism was not surprising, but patience. And how's that a superpower? And, but the way it is that, let me get into the weeds here. Can I get into the weeds a little bit?
Please get into the weeds, sir.
So I'm going to wander off into the weeds. Please forgive me, people. But Bill Gates has been the biggest funder of the fight to eradicate polio. And most people think polio has been eradicated because there hasn't been a case of polio in the United States in about 40 years. But polio is still endemic in 2 countries, in Pakistan and Afghanistan. They have had cases continually forever.
Wow.
And there aren't many anymore, but there are still cases. So he's the big funder. Rotary International has been kind of the leader in this effort, and Bill joined Rotary's effort about 20 years ago. But he's the biggest funder, so it's a big deal. A decade ago, in this context, he said, I think the problem is we need a better vaccine. And it's kind of a long-term project to do a new vaccine because vaccines take a long time, usually. Like he said, when we spoke, he said it's going to be 25 years since we started working on an HIV vaccine until we have one. And that turned out to be optimistic because the vaccine that he was talking about wasn't approved. It was about a year later after he and I spoke that the HIV vaccine that would have taken 25 years didn't work. So it didn't pass all the hurdles. And so it's not in use. So it's not an HIV vaccine after 25 years. So it takes a long time to make a vaccine. And so it was interesting that he thought there was a need for a better one. Well, a decade later, it's now being introduced. It's called the novel polio virus or polio vaccine. And it's better than the past vaccines that have been used for the last 50, 60 years. Jonas Salk developed the first one. And then Sabin came up with another one. And now Gates has led the development of a third. And it really is the linchpin piece for eradicating polio. And it is the essential new tool. So you think about being willing to say, I'm going to spend a lot of money, hundreds of millions of dollars to develop a new vaccine over the next decade. And a lot of people around him would have said, Bill, there will be no polio to vaccinate against in 10 years. We're making such great progress. Don't waste your time and energy. But he had the foresight and the patience to invest in that. So that was profound. And so I spent a little time, and please forgive me. I'm not really rambling here, but I'm sharing a bit of a long answer to your question. I spent some time trying to figure out how do you learn patience, because we oftentimes think of ourselves as either being patient or impatient.
You're married to Melinda Melinda. I blew the end of this joke. Melinda Gates. That's how you learn patience.
Yeah, maybe, but the real issue is our expectations, right? And our expectations are entirely conscious. I mean, think about how many times have you gotten upset because the fast food took too long?
Yeah.
And on the other hand, maybe you've been willing to sit out for 2 days waiting for the new iPhone. No. Probably not, but you see people do that, right? And you recognize waiting is not the problem. It is the alignment of our expectations with what's happening. And
Ah,
so it's really remarkably easy, because our expectations are conscious, to just say, oh, I was wrong. I will adjust my expectations and anticipate that this will be done in 30 minutes instead of 5, and it'll be great. It'll take a year instead of a month. It'll take 5 years instead of 1 year. We just adjust and we can move forward. It's really kind of a remark. And I'd never thought about that. I always thought of patience was something you either have or you don't have. And then suddenly I'm learning, oh, we can control patience. We
you
have
can.
absolute control.
Would the Disney lines be a good example of that? I mean, at Disney, when you go, they tell you there's a sign that says you will wait 2 hours, and everybody accepts that because it's a given.
Yeah.
It manages their expectations of work.
Right.
So is that a
Yeah.
good example?
Yes. That's a perfect example.
See,
It's
you
a
should have
better
consulted
example.
me for your book. I could have.
Yeah, I should have. But yes, that's the trick. And so with all the superpowers in the book, we've tried to look at how do we develop them. And you and I will never have. In the book, there are like 60 superpowers in the book. You and I are never going to have 60. No one should try to have 60. But there are. Everyone can have 2 or 3 things.
Can I have
that we're really
59?
good at.
Maybe 59.9.
59. You could have 59. I
can
can't
do
have it. You can
I'll
have
try.
59. You
I'll
should.
try. I'm bored.
Good idea.
Yeah.
But
I'm bored and delusional. I think I have some.
yeah. But the idea in the book is that you look through it and you say, oh, these are the ones I'm really going to focus my energy on. The ones where I really can make these into superpowers. These are already existing strengths. I'm gonna flex those muscles.
So there's 60 of them. It may be possible that maybe all of us have certain ones we've already kind of mastered inside of ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. Do I get a cape for that?
Yeah, in my mind, the idea is to strengthen our existing superpowers.
Yeah. Do I get a cape for that if I have like 5 of them or 10 of them or something?
Yeah.
Like a
Yes,
qualification level?
you should definitely bake yourself a cake if you have 5.
No, a cape. I'm sorry.
Oh, cape.
A
Sorry.
cape. I'll have a cape. I'll have a cake too. Clearly, I've had a few cakes in my life.
Yeah. No. Yes.
But a cape.
Definitely. When you have when you master your third superpower,
Third
you
one?
get the
Okay,
cape.
cool.
Yeah.
All right. So there's like levels, like gold, silver, platinum, 1, 2, 3. So
That's
if
right.
I master like 5, I get.
Then
There
you
you
get
go.
the lasso. You get the lasso.
I get the lasso?
The golden lasso
Golden
of honesty
lasso?
or whatever.
Do I get
it
the
is.
bikini outfit of Wonder Woman? I don't think that'll look good on me. I don't know, but there's still time. I'm still working out at the gym. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, this is pretty cool. 60 superpowers. That's a lot of superpowers. I'm kind of tired just thinking about it at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I wonder how much he used that patience in his divorce. Sorry, we're doing a lot of Bill Gates divorce jokes because it's topical. What are some other top superpowers that you think are super important, like at the top of that list of 60?
Yeah. So I think one of the most important, and I hate to rank them, but optimism, which Bill mentioned, but you're probably familiar at least a little bit with the website Indiegogo, the crowdfunding site. I talked to Slava Rubin, who is the guy that kind of led the creation of that. He's one of the co-founders, and he was the CEO for a decade, and about the creation of that. And he shared with me that his superpower is optimism. And I've seen that with a lot of entrepreneurs. And so as I kind of dug into the weeds around optimism, one of the things that I figured out is that, in fact, there's good research that shows that optimistic people are more successful. It actually works. It has an outcome, it has an impact on our lives and our results. And so that's a pretty important lesson. And so I came away with that, and similarly, there are things we can do to bolster our optimism. And that some of them are challenging. It's frankly, it's harder than patience.
I'm gonna have to read your book. Is eating as many tacos as you can on Taco Tuesday, is that a superpower?
It didn't make the book. I'm not saying it's not a superpower, right? Because the book is not the book is not the summum bonum of
Okay.
superpowers, right? That you can have a superpower that's not in the book.
When I get the book, I'll probably just add that 61
Yeah, there you go.
Taco Tuesday. There you go.
Yeah.
What are some other ones that you think are really important to master
Yeah,
that aren't taught?
there are
to
kind of there are a lot in there that are fun, but one of the ones that I thought was most fun that I discovered is a woman that, she's in her 70s, and she told me that she's fearless, and I'm a little bit skeptical of the fearless. I'm thinking of this woman, and she's in Chicago, and her name's Ina Pinkney, and
When you got a name like that, you are fearless.
yeah, I guess so. But so she told me, she said, Devin, I jumped out of an airplane once. And I said, okay, but you were afraid. You overcame your fear, but you were afraid, right? Nope, I was not afraid. And I was a little skeptical until she explained kind of her secret on that. And it is preparation. She prepares for everything she does in such a way that she never is afraid of what she's doing or what outcomes might be, because she has weighed all the factors. And I thought, wow, that's pretty empowering. So that was another one that I thought was kind of interesting.
I used to call it looking the dragon in the mouth. And I've actually got a new agenda for my life where I'm going to do things that really challenge and expand my mentality. And I do want to jump out of a plane, so I'll use that. Yeah. So does she sit down? I think I got some of this from Tony Robbins. Does she sit down and pre-play the thing in her head to go through the preparation and stuff?
She does some of that for sure. She describes like going into a meeting or into a room. She will stop at the door, pause, collect herself, and make sure that she's thought about what's going on in that room, and to make sure that she's ready for everything that's going on in the room. It's a quick exercise that she does. But I thought, wow, that's interesting. It's a very conscious effort to prepare so that you're never afraid. And then, when she jumped out of the airplane, she had an altimeter watch, and she had done all kinds of things, but she'd read everything there was to know about how it was going to happen. She'd talked to her guide. And so there was nothing along the way in that whole process that surprised her or made her uncomfortable. She was just excited, having a fun time.
There you go. That, or she's just trying to kill herself. She's just like, I'm sick of being here. I'm fearless because what are you going to do? Kill me? I'm old. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just doing jokes and bits. But no, I actually want to do that. I want to jump out of an airplane this coming year. I want to get in a little bit more better shape to do the jump. And then, because I guess I got to ride with somebody else for it, but I want to do that just to do it, man, just to expand my mind, to just have that fearlessness of like a James Bond who goes, you can't scare me. I've seen some things. Because I'm kind of at that age now, where I'm like, I've seen some shit. Like, there's not much that can scare me anymore. But other than me stepping out of the shower and seeing myself in the mirror, that's wow, whoa, that's scary. No one wants to see that. But anything else you want to touch on in the book that you think people should know about?
I think the only other thing I would mention is that as you think about superpowers, right? There are kind of two groups that I like to focus on. And we talked about the first group. You've already got some strengths. Let's strengthen those strengths, make them into real superpowers. The other group to focus on are those that are success limiting. Right? So all of us have weaknesses, except you, Chris. So you may not empathize with this very much, but the rest of us have weaknesses. And generally speaking, it's not very productive to address weaknesses unless a weakness you can identify as having a real success limiting impact on your life.
Yeah.
And for me, I think my success limiting thing is self-confidence. I don't want to, get too far into the weeds, but my lack of self-confidence is I think my big challenge. And so I need to work on that so that doesn't limit my success. I may never be super self-confident like other people. That may never be a superpower, but eliminating that weakness can remove the blocks in front of the tires.
Yeah. And it's always a work in progress. I do remember the one weakness that I do have, since you said I was impervious to any sort of weakness.
Yeah.
It is Taco Tuesdays. Anyway,
it's a strength and a weakness. That's that's the way superpowers are.
Yeah, I'm wearing half of Taco Tuesday, so there's that. I'm trying to lose that Taco Tuesday thing, but it's Tuesday, so I don't know. That's where we're at. So this is pretty insightful, man. Do you want to plug any other books you put out this year that you're working on? You worked on?
I did do the audiobook version of Adding Profit by Adding Purpose, which was a book that I wrote back in 2016 or 2017. And that's one of my favorite books that I've written, in that it goes directly to making a difference in the world, in that the people who read this book typically are in corporate positions, and where if they decide to do more good, it often has a lot of zeros behind it, right? And so I was excited about it. So anyway, I took the time to record the audio version of Adding Profit by Adding Purpose this year.
There you go. Always fun. So give us your plugs as we go out. Anything more you want to throw out on the book before we go?
I am thrilled to be here, and I'm thrilled to have the opportunity to pitch. But we do a podcast. It's not as cool as yours, Chris, but we have a podcast, and so superpowersforgood.com is where you can find the podcast. Subscribe there to the podcast /newsletter, and we'll get you great content 4 days a week.
There you go. Check it out, guys. Definitely. I mean, we've had him on the show 3 times now? 4 times?
I think so. 3. I think this is the 3rd times? But
I think on the 4th we owe you like an SNL robe or something. 5th we owe you like an SNL robe.
Yeah.
That, or we'll just send you, I don't know, a little paper mache thing or something from that guy from Blade Runner. But it's been wonderful to have you on. Thanks for coming on, Devin. We certainly appreciate it.
Thank you. It's a thrill to be here.
There you go. Order out the books, guys. Go to your wherever fine bookstores are selling fine books, something like that. Don't go to the alleyways. Superpowers for Good, the skills you can master to leave your mark on the world. Devin, thanks for coming on. Thanks, Monas, for tuning in. Go to youtube.com/Chris Voss. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss. All the groups on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, and all that good stuff. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you guys next time.